Good morning and welcome back to Morning Express. As I promised before we went on break, we have some inspiration for you this morning. At the age of 16, Stephen Muchiri had lost all of his family, his mother, his father, and his 2 siblings. But despite that adversity, it did not stop him from still seeking and pursuing to live out his full potential. He's now an author and a motivational speaker, and he joins me in studio to talk to us more about his journey and what it is has kept him strong and forging on despite the tragedy and the turmoil he's experienced. Steve, it's good to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming through to us, to our studio, to our show. It's great to have you. Yeah.
Yes.
So, at the age of 16, losing everybody, talk to us first. You're born into this family as the what born?
I'm the firstborn.
Firstborn.
Yeah, so I'm the firstborn. Born in the year 1986. I'm 27 years.
Yes.
Turning 28 next month.
Okay.
So being the firstborn, I was born in the Embu County, in the village. And, you know, when I was 6 years, when I was 3 years, my sister was born. So I am the firstborn, then my sister was born, and when I was 6, my sister got sick, and she had pneumonia, and you know, she was hospitalized, but in 2 days she passed on. So I was being 6 years, I didn't understand death so much. So I asked my parents, will I ever see her again? And they told me, yeah, you will see her one day. So life continued, and I was, you know, she was the only sister. So we really used to play together, used to do things together, because she passed on when she was 3 years in 1992. So life continued, and things were not very good because my parents were not, they were struggling in terms of finances and all that. And life continued, and when I was 12 years, my brother was born. I was in class 5, and I remember I was very happy now that I have a brother to play with, and you know, he was born, and in 5 months he got sick. He got anemia, so he was hospitalized for a month. Then he was treated, and then he was brought back home. But after 2 months, he developed meningitis and malaria. So it took like 1 week, then he passed on.
So he passed on at what age?
9 months.
9 months.
Yeah, so I was, it was very, you know, I was 12 years.
So at that time, did you understand?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And I remember I cried. I went to my bed, and I cried, and I asked God, you know, God, why would this young man go at so young, you know, in a very young age, 9 months, he's not even experienced life. And it was kind of difficult for me, but you know, I was encouraged. My parents encouraged me, and then things, you know, he was buried, but it was never the same for me.
How so?
Sorry?
How so? You say it was never the same.
Yeah. Because now I'm looking at myself. I don't have a brother. I don't have a sister. You know, I have friends who have their own brothers and sisters, and you know, I would hear them talk about my brother, my sister. For me, I didn't have a brother or a sister. And
you have some pictures now on screen. Talk to us about who is that?
That's my mom.
That's your mom, and
that's my dad.
Your dad?
Yeah.
And then we'll see some, yes, this one?
Now that's my sister and I. She's, you can see her on the left.
Yeah, that's the one who passed away. And there's another picture that's coming up.
That's my brother.
That's your brother?
Yes.
Okay. So, by the time you were class 6 or 5, you lost both your siblings?
I was in class 5. I had lost both of my siblings.
But you still had your parents?
I still had my parents.
Then what happened?
So now after that, my mama was very disturbed by my brother's death. She was really stressed out, and she was, I would see her sad, and I could see that there's a problem. So she started getting sick. She was in and out of hospital, and in the year 2000, she got very sick. She would pass out in the house. She had typhoid and malaria combined. So she was on medication, and then this time now she was passing out. She was able to, she was taken to hospital, and when she was taken to hospital, you know, she recovered. She was recovering very well, responding very well to medicine. But I remember she was supposed to come back home on a Friday. So that morning I went to school I was a day scholar in primary school. So I went to school, and when I came back from school, I was expecting to find my mom home, because my dad had told me, today I'm coming with your mother. So as I was passing, I was going home. There is a footpath that we used to use. So on that footpath, I met my grandma coming from our house, because in the village we were neighbors with my uncles and my grandma. So I asked her, how is mom? Did you come with her? She looked at me, she told me, your mom has rested. And I asked her, where is she resting? Is she in the house? She told me, your mom has gone to be with the Lord. Sophia, I didn't know how to express myself. I kept quiet. I didn't know whether to cry or to shout. I just kept quiet. And now I was like, this is the third person in my family who's left. So how do I explain this? It was very difficult for me. But I told God, you know what, God, you need to give me strength. I knew God at a young age.
How old were you by the time you were?
At that time I was 14.
You were 14.
I was in class 7. So now at that time I understood, death and what happened.
Yeah, the dynamics, yes.
Yeah. So we buried my mom, and
how was your dad also at
now
the time?
My dad was this strong man who never showed emotion. He never used to show emotions.
He did not cry.
I have never seen my dad cry, but I'll tell you when I saw him cry, and it was very touching to me as well. So we buried him, and and life continued, but things were never the same, because now I had to live with my grandma. I had to, because of food. I was in class 7, going to school every morning. She had to prepare me. So it's like I used to go in the morning, get some food for lunch and some breakfast. And she used to give us. I had a very, very loving grandmother, although she passed on as well. So she used to cook food for us, me and my dad. And maybe give me a little bit of punch. I need more voice. I understand. You have to pick on your mic. Yes. So she would buy me clothes, buy me school uniform. And things were different. So you have your father, you're at 14, your siblings have died, 9 months, the other at how old? It was 9 months, the other one was 3 years. Was 3 years. Here you are, your mom also gone, then you have your father. And you're now thinking, surely God, I have had enough death happening, I've lost too many people, please keep him for me. But that was not to be the case. That was not to be the case. By the grace of God, I was able to finish class 8, and I got some good marks that took me to secondary school. I was in Kamama Boys in Embu. So I went to Kamama Boys secondary. Things were not very good for us, because my dad didn't have, he didn't have a stable job. He was having a taxi which was not bringing a lot of income. So things were tough. I would be out of school, in and out of school. So I remember in third term I came home, and I found my dad. Sorry, it was second term. I found him home, and he told me, son, there is something I want to tell you. I asked him, what is it? He told me, son, I have tuberculosis. I was shocked, because I never knew my dad had tuberculosis, and I was living in him in the same house. So he told me he's on medication and he's going to be fine. So he was taking medicine, and at least I would see the medicine was helping him. But as time went by, he started now getting other sicknesses. He got malaria, then he got meningitis, and then he has TB, and then he would get throat infections that would make him even not be able to eat. And this was also some of what your mom had before she passed on, TB? No, my mom didn't have TB. My mom had malaria and typhoid. And typhoid, okay. So, so my dad, he was taken to hospital, I remember, stayed for 2 weeks. Then he came home. Now he was treated for malaria. When he was telling you, let me stop you. When he was talking to you about being sick and now he's on medication, did you just think to yourself, you know what, this is now a matter of weeks or days, I know he's gonna go as well? Did that cross your mind? I told God, please God, heal my father. I don't want to lose him. I was in so much fear. I didn't want to lose my father. So it was difficult. Seeing him taking medicine, and I would tell God, please let this medicine heal him completely, because he was like my only now, my family identity. the person who was there, I would identify with him. But things went from bad to us. On 25th December 2002, he was hospitalized, and he was crying because of pain. That's the first time I saw my dad crying. My dad was crying, like shouting, like a child. He was telling me he has a very, very bad migraine, that he would feel like there were bells ringing in his head. And I was like, God, what is this? I've never seen such a sickness. I've never had somebody, having such. I would go to hospital. He couldn't feed himself. I would feed him. The strong man he was, he couldn't feed himself. He couldn't even wake up from the bed. He had to be carried. He had to be fed while sleeping, because even waking up, sitting down, it was a problem. And it was traumatizing for me. I was 15 at that time. No, I turned 16. So it was sad. He stayed for 3 weeks in hospital. He got from bad to us. I remember I went to Form 2 now the next year, 2003. So the first week I went to see him in hospital. I went and I found him very sick. He couldn't even talk, but he whispered. He saw me and whispered and told me, come. I went. He told me, Neil, I want to speak to you. And he told me, son, I'm gonna die. I told him, Dad, no, you cannot die. And he told me, son, you're not God. He told me a very interesting, thing. He told me Jesus was here yesterday night. And he told me, when I die, he'll come for me. So, son, I'm gonna die. Go tell your grandfather to take me out of this hospital. He was fighting death as well. Tell your grandfather I don't want to be in this hospital. They've put me near. I see people being taken to the mortuary when I'm here. So just tell him to get me out of this place. Even if it's selling my farm, it's okay. But you see, now he was in a position where the doctors were saying, now here it's only God who can, because they had done everything their best.
And so after,
so I went back to school. I was so scared. I was so disturbed. So that week I was not able to concentrate. And he died on a Wednesday. I went to see him on Sunday. He died on a Wednesday. But there was no one, Sophia, who had the courage to come and tell me my dad is dead. My family, all my family members were wondering, how do we tell this young man? And I understand, So on a Sunday I was like, no. I was so uneasy, I have to go and see my dad. So I went home. I decided not to go to hospital first. So I went home, and he had this bad feeling. The environment was telling me there's something wrong. So as I went home, I crept slowly. And when I went to our compound, I found a tent. And something told me, this is your dad's meeting.
So he'd passed on a Wednesday. This is when you're going home.
Sunday. I'm going on a Sunday.
So no one has told you. No one You've been in school. They're all worried to tell you, because they're wondering what will happen.
Yes.
You come home on a Sunday.
Yes.
You're creeping in slowly. You're seeing a tent. A lot of activity.
Yeah. And it was difficult. It was very difficult. And
so when they saw you, the first person who saw you, what did they say? The first person
was my uncle, my dad's brother. He was going to church. So he had a whimper from afar. And he was like, oh my goodness. This young man just came and understood what happened. And carried me, told me, oh, sorry, we know it's hard, but God is going to help us. So I went to my grandfather. My grandfather told me he's the most affected. That was his son. And I saw my grandfather wanted to cry, and I just stopped crying because I couldn't. He was 80 years. So I couldn't stand him, see the tears come out of his eyes.
Many people don't get to go through what you've gone through. I mean, many have suffered loss. They've lost their loved ones. But losing everyone in your family, and just must be even now heartbreaking to recount all of those very hard, memories. What for you then did you imagine that really God does not exist anymore? He doesn't care. He doesn't listen to you. You've asked him to at least spare your dad. He's dead as well.
I would say I didn't understand God at that time. I was like, God, by there I don't understand all this. But I didn't give hope. I didn't give up on hope. I was like, I'll still move on. God, I'll trust in you. Because as I was going through all those things, something in the inside was telling me, don't worry.
It will be okay.
It will be well. That's what kept me. And then now, after we buried my dad, this auntie of mine who I really celebrate with her husband. It's called Cicely and Kenneth Njeru.
Yeah.
They took me as their son. They told me, don't worry, we're going to take you, we're going to fund everything in terms of school fees, we're going to educate you until up to university. And yeah, they gave me hope, you know. And then they have 3 siblings, their firstborn, second and third. So I was now...
So you incorporated, sort of like adopted into the family.
I was adopted in the family.
Yeah.
And I know they are watching, and I'm so grateful to them. They are.
And we celebrate them as well.
Yeah,
so you go through school, finish.
Yeah.
What are you doing now?
So I went to Daystar. I did psychology. And
I'm also a Daystarian.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did psychology. And why I did psychology is because I really wanted to help people, because of what I had gone through.
Yeah, because you'd been there, yes.
At the same time, I wanted to understand what I wanted to understand myself more. So in my 4th year...
Are they the ones who talk to us about this?
That's my... those are the ones. That was my book launch.
Okay, which we'll talk about.
We'll talk about, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so they are the ones.
They're the ones.
Yeah,
now you're a new adopted family. Let's maybe, can that picture change? Okay, this is still the book launch?
No, I do motivational talk. That was just a talk. That's a high school talk. I went to high school. I was doing a talk as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other 2 pictures below.
Now that's my book,
which I have a copy of here.
Yeah.
The victor in every victim.
Yes.
All right, and we'll continue seeing the others. But you say, so you decided psychology is what you wanted to study.
Yes.
Because you wanted to be able to help others heal.
Yes, I wanted to help others. And then I had this desire to motivate and inspire. So what happened is in my 4th year, I did a course called grief counseling. And now that's when for 8 years I was suffering from grief. So that's when I was able to come to terms with that. And it was not only psychology. I also went to a personal development school called PDI, and I was taught about personal development. And through that, now I was able to now mix the 2, my psychology and personal development, because life is about developing yourself. True. You know, growing from one area to becoming better. So I went through the school. Of course, I had mentors. I have mentors who've really helped me, and it's not been a journey on my own. I have been mentored by the guys who've been there, inspirational speakers, and as well, I have, you know, I love personally, I read books, I hear motivational stuff.
So when is it you wrote this book?
So now when
The Victor in Every
I wrote that book in 2011. I started writing in 2011, launched it in 2012. So now that's when I launched the book, and this book has really inspired so many, because I go to places.
You need to share what your experiences.
I share my experiences. Right. This book is not just about my story. It's I would say it's a personal development book and an inspirational book as well, and all my story, because there is I talk about my story. I talk about purpose, understanding your purpose. I talk about self-awareness or emotional awareness or emotional intelligence. I talk about the victor in every victim. How do you become a victor even when you've been a victim? The title itself. So then I am a Christian. I am born again. So I have used the Bible to put some verses there that show you how to become a victor, or to live in victory despite what happens to you. So
throughout this whole tragedy and rising, coming out of it, did you ever go through counseling? Did you sit down with somebody to help you through it? Yeah, I went through counseling in Daystar by the lecturer who was teaching me grief counseling, Reverend Mutungi. I think you heard about her. She really helped me, and then also the school counselor. She also, I went through 14 sessions of counseling. So those sessions really helped me to become, now to be free, to be able to come to terms with the deaths. Because unless you come to terms with that, you will never move on. Because you have to come to terms with that, and then you have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive those guys who left you, because now that's what grief is all about. You become angry because these guys left you. You have bitterness in the inside. So I was able now to be, I was taken through therapy, and it really helped me now to be able to
overcome now and be able also to talk to other people. And yeah.
So do you ever have moments when you miss them, when you're emotional and you're like, you know, just a recurrence of those feelings just boiling down into your mind? And if you do, how do you get through those moments?
There are moments, it's true, there are moments when I'm like, these guys, you know, I miss them because, you know, living with people for 16 years, people who you call your immediate family, and then losing them, it's not an easy thing. So what I do is, let me tell you, I am a man who, I have faith in God. And I tell people it's the grace of God that keeps me and makes me who I am.
Yeah.
I really pray and tell God to give me strength. So when I feel so weak and feel like, you know, this is too much, I just go down on my knees. And I tell God, Father, you help me. Okay. And you say you have a good future for me. So God, I give this to you. And He gives me so much peace. And you know, even people wonder, how did you come to terms with this? Because now I also lost my grandmother and my grandfather, my paternal. So they are like, you must be very strong. I tell them, God has given me the strength.
All right.
Yeah.
I remember you're a motivational speaker. We've seen you speaking. Yes. What is it you talk about, and also talk to us about being an entrepreneur? What it is you're doing on that front as well?
Okay. As a motivational speaker, I talk about hoping against the odds. You know, that's a topic I teach. How do you hope against the odds of life? Then I also talk about emotional intelligence. Because if you're not emotionally intelligent, when problems come, you will not be able, if you dwell so much on what you are feeling, you might not be able to do the things that God has called you to do.
So when you say emotional intelligence,
yes,
you mean what exactly? For those who may not understand.
When I say emotional intelligence, is being able to understand when you are feeling bad and good, and how do you get from bad to good.
How you separate that?
How do you separate that?
Work around.
Then how do you also need to understand other people's emotions, because you know you don't work alone. In these, for example, at the workplace, there are other people who have problems and other things they are dealing with. So you need to be able to understand what kind of a state are they in and how do you approach them to foster a good relationship with them, and also maybe how can you help them to become better. So emotional intelligence is basically being able to understand your feelings and other people's feelings, and now being able to balance, being able to understand now how do I react to this circumstance, how do I solve this.
And as an entrepreneur, what is it you do?
As an entrepreneur, I sell my books. When I do talks, I do talks, and sometimes I go to the corporate. So I have a consultancy that now I go with. I also do farming.
Nice, farming. What are you farming? What are you growing?
Right now,
I'm
growing potatoes.
You're growing potatoes. You should have brought some. Next time, bring me some.
Next time I come.
So what is it you hope to do in the future? What is the plan?
In the future, for example, I have a project. I am writing my second book. It will be out soon. Yeah. I'm hoping by December it will be out. Then I also want to go beyond Kenya. Inspiring people, motivating, doing training, because I also train in terms of, I train on personal development, on purpose. How do you understand purpose? What is purpose? Because if it's not purpose, I wouldn't be standing. I wouldn't be here. I believe everything that I went through, God was preparing me for my purpose, to inspire. My purpose is to be a pillar of hope.
Very well.
I am so passionate about inspiration.
Finally, what do you tell people watching who perhaps lost a loved one recently, are still dealing with their grief very shortly? What do you tell them?
What I would tell them is death is, everyone will die. It's something that we have to accept. It's only that sometimes it happens too soon when we don't expect it, because all of us maybe want to live for 80 or 90 years or 100 years. So some die young, some die in middle age. But at the end of the day, what's the most important is mourn. Very good. It's very good to mourn.
To go through that process.
Go through the process. Mourn that person. After the mourning, don't mourn forever. See what you can do to get out of that. And I really tell people it's good if you feel this is too much, because there are people who are naturally very good at dealing with, problems, their personal problems, their emotional problems. Some people don't go to counseling and they are well because they are able to cope. But if you feel this is too much for me, I would really advise someone to go for counseling because it will really help.
Okay.
Yes.
Steve Muchiri, thank you so much for joining us today. Yep. Such an inspirational story. And I love what you said there, that you're here. The reason you did not die, the rest of your family all died, but you're here because of purpose. And it's amazing that you're using that to give back, to teach, to inspire, and to be able to help everybody else along the way. And so we wish you the very best. Keep shining. Write that book. Hope you can come again here and talk to us. The very best to you and love to your family from us.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everybody for watching the show this Monday. Hope you enjoyed your weekend, all geared for the week. We'll see you again definitely here tomorrow. We'll have person of interest. We'll keep that a secret and let you know who it will be tomorrow bright and early. So let's begin together at 6 a.m. Have a lovely day. On behalf of everyone that made the show possible, I'm Sophia Wanuna. Take care.